Chair Pons.
Here.
Vice Chair Dent.
Here.
Ms. Kernshire.
Here.
Okay.
Here.
Ms. Prescott. Ms. Redcross.
Here.
She still had city council on the mind. Okay, you all have before you the minutes from the August 7th and September 11th meeting. If there's no changes or corrections, would you like to make a motion to approve?
So I move that we accept the minutes.
Second.
Ms. McKay?
Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Chair Pons.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire.
Aye.
Ms. Prescott.
Aye.
Ms. Redcross.
Okay. Takes us to quarterly reports.
Good evening. I'd like to provide with you all with the financial report for the period of July 2023 through September 2023. Our rent revenues during the fourth quarter came in at $123,591. This brings our year-to-date total to $490,192. And this is about 112% of the projected budget of $434,142. And as you can see, our rent revenues have performed extremely well this quarter, this fiscal year. In fact, our projections were over what we anticipated by $56,050. In the other income line item of the budget, the authority, we've collected $20,658 this quarter for a year-to-date total of $42,708. And this is at an increase of $5,042 from what we projected in the budget of $37,666. And as I've indicated on numerous occasions, we derive these funds from our work orders, our debt set-off, and also our laundry service contracts. With regards to our HUD operating subsidy, we programmed $313,291. However, we have received from HUD $383,521, which is a $70,230 increase, so a substantial amount of what we had originally projected. In our capital fund subsidy, we programmed $316,001. However, we were awarded $374,675. And as you can see, a substantial increase. So we very excited about that when we get over what we anticipate, and it helps us out in the end. With regards to our drawdown, our ability to pull those funds down, we pulled down $304,675, and we also received additional funds from HUD of $2,616 for the operating fiscal year of 21 and 22. So they were generous to give us those additional funds. So the total amount of drawdown for the capital funds is $307,291. This is the I guess the stickler or the issue that we have as far as the budget is concerned, because over the years we've been able to pull down all the capital funds each year without exception. This year it was a change in the policy, and so we couldn't pull all the funds down. So as you look in the budget, there's still an outstanding amount or balance of $70,000 that we have yet to pull down, and those funds are put into a special account at HUD, and they are telling us now that we can't pull those down until the new fiscal year. So in this budget, we are showing a deficit, but that's not the true case in terms of what we've experienced. So if we were able to pull those funds down this fiscal year or during this fiscal year, we would be looking at a surplus of $32,000, $32,383. So it's just a little wrinkle, but we're still in good shape.
So changing the policy said that they were going to give us 370, whatever it was, but they said, but you're not going to get it all.
That's exactly right.
But they still owe it to us.
We're going to be able to pull those funds down in this fiscal year. So those funds are still outstanding, but we won't, as a reporting practice, it just looks like we're running a deficit. But
Does that affect our operating in terms of renovation schedules and all that
No,
kind of
sir.
stuff?
No, sir, because we have a substantial surplus funds in our accounts. We have a total balance of $1,162,723. And those funds we use to keep us going until we get our subsidies each year. So that's just kind of a floating financial account that we have where we pull everything out of, and we supplant what we get from HUD as far as our subsidies and our rents, kind of just feeds that account.
Sure. Well, it's a healthy cash reserve, and that's why we have the cash
Exactly.
reserves to
Exactly.
handle these types of fluctuations in the pressure, so to speak. Can we charge them interest on what they haven't paid us?
That would be nice.
Okay.
So, in a nutshell, we, at the end of the fiscal year, we pulled down in revenue $1,223,712. Our expenses were $1,261,329, and we have expenses were over revenue by $37,617. And so that's the delta that I was referring to. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those at this time.
I don't have any additional questions. Thank you, Mr. Franklin.
Any questions?
So I just have one question. When you're talking about the rent and being over budget, do you think that that is partially because of some processes you all have put in place to get people to pay their rent more? Or, you know, that you're collecting better, or people, I mean, what do you think is the difference?
That is
That-
a good question. I mean, we are very matter of fact in our processes, and we're diligent in our collection measures. So I would like to think that the way we operate has something to do with the way our revenues are reflected. I would reserve my comment, and I would let Ms. Burton kind of give her thought on this, because she's directly involved in that whole process. So I don't
You
want
should
to
see
take
the face she
anything away
just
from
made at you.
you. If you have comment, feel free.
That we are taking outstanding balance.
Okay, that's what I thought. So that is making a difference, and I would think that once the word spreads, that people can't pull the wool over your eyes, so to speak, that is helping also. Thank you.
But I think, would it be true that in addition, because rents are based on one's ability to pay, that through employment, they would pay more?
That is correct.
So
Yeah.
we are
So
collecting more
combination.
rents.
Well, I don't want, I know this is being taped, so I'm trying to be very careful, but we try to operate like a business. So with that, we want to find folks who are gainfully employed. We encourage that, and when they become residents in our facilities, we do what we can to get them into good opportunities, and I think they take advantage of that. And so that reflects, as you indicated, 30% of your income. You know, whatever that is, it reflects in your rent payments.
And I think that's important. Part of what we want to do as an authority is help people that are also helping themselves. And, you know, I think more than just being a business, you know, you finding tenants that want to improve and work and need a place to live and contribute to the community in lots of different ways. And so I think that speaks to the cause.
Absolutely.
Any other questions, Ms. Prescott or Ms. Redcross? Okay. All right, quarterly operating reports.
Okay. All right, I will be as brief as possible. I know you have had an opportunity to get the report and to go through it. If there's anything in particular that you would like for me to elaborate on, I would be more than willing to do so. But I'll just kind of go over this in a brief context. With regards to turnarounds, as you can see, the authority turned 27 units during this fiscal year. And I've been here now 4 years, and I can truly say that this is the most we've ever done in a 1 year period. As far as what the contributing factors are for that, I think it has a lot to do with, I guess, coming out of the COVID and the rent freeze by the courts, and you know, we've found a number of people who may have been on the opposite side of that, where it may kind of shown up as fraud and what have you, and so evictions were high. We had a lot of folks that move out. We had some passing, some transitions, and so a number of factors which contributed to the number. But as you know, 27 turns means we have to spend additional resources, and so that impacted the budget as well. Those extra additional units that we, on average, I think since I've been here, 15 units a year. So you can see the difference. I'm hoping that this is not the norm going forward.
Turns are costly.
Exactly. Waiting list, I'll just skip around. So the waiting list, we're going to change a little bit about our process. We're so happy that we went from actually having people come into the office and kind of go through a process. Now we do it online. But by doing it online, we rely a lot on the applicant to fulfill or close the gap by submitting documentation. And that's where we've kind of missed the opportunity, because they don't close the gap. They don't submit the final documents that we need, and so we have to purge those applications. We had 2,045 people respond during the open house, which is a lot. That shows you the need. But out of that 2,045, I think we only had 371 that were actually certified. So we're going to make some adjustments. That number won't be as low based on what we do going forward. And we'll probably open up the waiting list in February. So just giving you an update on that process. The laundry mat and the HVAC system. As you know, we received a grant from Virginia Housing to do both initiatives. I'm happy to say that the $87,000 that we received for the HVAC system has been completed. We've installed 15 units at our family sites. So that part of the grant is completed. We've also asked for the reimbursement for the grants, because you have to spend money that you have in your accounts to do the work, and then you get reimbursed. And so those funds have been brought back to the authority. So we've closed that part of the grant out. The laundry mat is progressing well. In fact, it's starting to pick up momentum. We had an opportunity when we submitted our plans to the planning department, where it was determined that the Dunning Street property, which is Sylvia Brown, falls in the category protection district, which requires an ARB review. The planning staff gave us a list of areas that needed to be addressed. We made those adjustments with the architects, and we successfully got our application approved. And so now our plans are with the building department, and we're waiting for those to be approved. Once they are approved, we will then go out for the bid process, and then hopefully by the next meeting, we'll be able to bring something back to you for action as far as entering into a contract. So we're very excited. And in your package, we included a set of plans so you can get an idea of what the building will look like. All right. The security cameras, I am happy to report that we have all cameras installed. They are operational, so that is a thing that we can put behind us. We have a count. As you can see in the report, we have 22 cameras located at the Bladen Building, 23 at Catherine Circle, 12 at Mimosa Woods, and 17 at Sylvia Brown. And I can see the difference by just having them up. The sites are cleaner, less trash. Less complaints from our residents about visitors, loitering on the grounds. It's just a different feel now. And so even though that is a very positive, you will probably hear, because it's not always roses, you know, you're going to have some negative feedback, that we have some residents that feel that we are infringing on their privacy. But my motto is, if you have nothing to hide, what you worried about? I'm just saying. So I'm glad that they're installed, making a big difference. You can see the impact, and I appreciate the city council and city staff for their ability to contribute those funds to the authority to make that happen, because it is definitely making a big difference.
Well, I think the difference ultimately means there's greater quality of life for those that live there. So I think that's absolutely imperative.
Sir. Triangle building management. Now, this is something that is kind of a throwback. When the authority entered into an agreement with the city during, I guess, 2012, one of the things that was on the table was the management of the Triangle building. And that building went to the oversight by the Department of Economic Development. Talking with staff, there was an interest in possibly having the management of the facility come back to the authority, at which I have no objection to it. I'm willing to take that on and work with staff to make it happen. Essentially, there is an agreement in place or a contract with RJS Associates where they do the day-to-day management of the facility. So we'll be involved, but not to the extent where it's day-to-day and hands-on, but we will handle things that come up. But all that has to, before we can even get to that, there needs to be an amendment to the MOU that we currently have, and that is where this board comes in. If you think that's something that you would like us to take on, I would be more than willing to do that, and would welcome it, because to me it kind of brings the authority full circle to an extent where we're trying to kind of, we'll talk a little bit about that tonight in terms of the strategic plan, to kind of give us more purpose, give us more of a vision to kind of move forward in lieu of things that may change down the road.
So currently, as you say, the Economic Development Authority operates it. So do they show the revenue? Where does the revenue shown for rents?
Shown here.
So the city retains the rents to the building, and that's part of the reimbursement of the subsidy that we give the housing authority.
We are one Williamsburg, so we can all still work together. Housing Authority, Economic Development, City Manager's Office, City Attorney's Office. So, I don't, unless I hear otherwise, it's owned by us, the Housing Authority, so it kind of makes sense that we would take over that supervision.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Thoughts?
All right, workforce housing. We have discovered a hazardous condition at one of our units, 210A Strawberry Plains. Tenant that occupied it at the time, we had to relocate them out of there, actually stepped through the floor. So the entire floor system has extreme moisture damage issue and some mold, and so we've relocated them out, and we are getting bids on what it would take to make that unit available for occupancy again. And so we're going through that process as we speak. Two of our employees have, I say, graduated out of the program, and so those units will become available. And in fact, we have two applicants ready to go right now. All we have to do is get them to sign the lease and get their deposit. So this is a very much needed and appreciated program, and I'd like to also thank the city for allowing us to be a part of it.
Mr. Franklin, while you're just on the heels of talking about the house on Strawberry Plains and the condition of the floor, does this provide us an opportunity to maybe to look at some of the other residential, single-family residential properties to make sure that there isn't issues looming?
That is a good point, because in this report, we talk about inspection. Ms. Burton and staff will be, they did an inspection today. So we actually are doing our inspections, and we're looking for other things, but certainly any defect will be picked up and will be addressed. So the issue with the floor
Leaky toilet.
is definitely the problem. And things that you don't see over time create problems.
Yep.
And sometimes it takes somebody to step through a floor in order for you to figure it out. So we'll correct it. We'll deal with it.
Thank you.
And with that, we do have activities. If you have any questions based on what we do on a quarterly basis, we would welcome to talk through those. But I did want to kind of take a moment to acknowledge one of our employees that just recently passed, Mr. Alvin Miller. Mr. Miller was by far one of the best maintenance mechanics or technicians that I've ever come across. I mean, he was just a jack. But I tell you, anything that he saw an opportunity to help the authority, this is how giving he was as an individual. He would step up and say, I want to do this. I want to correct, not us telling him, we want you to do it, but he volunteered those services. So I'll give you a perfect example. We have to contract out for a locksmith, and that's just part of the natural day-to-day operation, locks, doors, things of that nature. Mr. Miller wanted to be the guy for that, and so we paid for him to go to locksmith school. He got his certification. We got the mechanisms, the mechanics. He began making locks for the authority. That's how committed he was to our mission. And I can't even tell you about the number of dollars that he has saved us over the years, just thousands of dollars. And in fact, any surplus that we realized at the end of the year, since he was employed, I'm sure he had something to do with that. So he is going to be sorely missed. So I just wanted to kind of let the board know just how committed of an employee he was, and he was a good friend. So
Thank you for sharing that, and we certainly offer our condolences to he and his family. You often take for granted how great your employees are, and ones that have been around who had this additional training that just take on responsibility that ultimately create savings, sorely missed. But he as an individual sounds like he was a good guy. So
he certainly was. But on a positive note, we even though we were kind of short-staffed for a while, we were fortunate enough to find Mr. Samuel Pope, who came on board the 30th of October, and he is a skilled technician as well. So we hope to be able to experience some savings with his expertise.
great.
And with that, again, I'm here to answer any questions. We do have in your package, like I said, the blueprint for the laundromat. We had a community event that I thought was well attended, and definitely we had complete city involvement. We had the fire department, the police department, human services. So everybody pitched in, and it just was a good activity. And the fish was to die for. So it was a fish fry. And of course, we have in our package our newsletter that we use to communicate with the residents. And so if you have any questions based on what we've submitted, be happy to talk to you about those.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Any questions from the commission? Seeing none takes us to the open forum. Anybody in the audience that'd like to come forward and speak to this? Any matter? Seeing none, we'll close the open forum and come to new business, and we have the presentation and discussion regarding the WRHA strategic plan development process.
All right, the background, the authority has been awarded the Virginia Capacity Building Tier 1 Fiscal Year 2023 grant in the amount of $19,950. These funds are designated for the purpose of hiring a consulting firm to assist the authority in the development of a strategic plan. The Spark Mill Group has been hired by the authority to perform this task. We have with us tonight Mr. Avi Hopkins. I hope I said that right. Okay. He will provide an overview of the strategic planning process with the board and answer any questions that you all may have. Mr. Hopkins?
Welcome, Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you.
You're certainly welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having us tonight, having me tonight. Just wanted to share a little bit before I jump right into the presentation, just about how we got to this engagement. Mr. Franklin shared about the Virginia Housing Tier 1 grant and us being selected to support WRHA in this effort of building a strategic plan. Our process actually began with a conversation with Mr. Franklin. We call it kickoff. It's an opportunity to get some discovery around what does WRHA do, how do you work. That's important to us because we customize our plans. We believe there's not a one-size-fits-all as it relates to strategic planning. One of the things we found out in our discovery was that the structure at WRHA is very different from many of the other redevelopment and housing authorities that we work with throughout the state. And so that led me to a conversation with your city manager, Mr. Trivett, and his letting us know that we probably should bring this idea before you all tonight. So we're here tonight just to share a little bit about our process and from beginning to end, and then I have a small request at the end of this presentation. So just want to start off by saying that the Spark Mill is a strategic management and organizational development firm out of Richmond, Virginia. We are very familiar with working with redevelopment and housing authorities. We work with many throughout the state, and I've shared a few at the end of this presentation, just for you if you need a reference or like to call, we'd be happy to have you do that. Our process, again, we're consulting, facilitation, training, and many other products, again, supporting organizations like WRHA. And what we say is we like to make change possible. And so your team on this particular project will be myself, Hopkins, and Lindsay Pries, the senior consultant in this work. Fortunately, she could not be here tonight due to obligation with her family, but she and I will be working closely with Mr. Franklin and hopefully a couple of you to basically build this plan together. We believe in co-authoring plans and not just handing you a plan that we believe is right for WRHA, but rather beginning to work with your stakeholders to understand what it is the needs are and then bringing that back to make sure that all of the information is gathered from everyone involved in the process. So when we talk about strategic plans, what we think about are impacts, goals, and strategies. So that's the strategic plan component of this. Beyond that, and this is work that we'll also do with you all, is what we call implementation planning. And that's when we get more into the tactics of the work. So as we begin to build out this plan, you'll see a funneling or a flow as we think about what are the impacts that WRHA wants to have in the Williamsburg area. And from that, we'll begin to understand what the goals are to achieve those impacts and the strategies to attain those goals. Once that's completed, we'll come back together, and once you all have approved that plan, we'll come back together and talk about what implementation looks like. That's something only you all will know because you work so closely with it, but you all will be intricately involved in making sure you develop those tactics that build out this plan, to make sure that those are the checkoffs that are happening to reach the goals that have been set. And so our process is one of what we call gather, soak, and radiate. The gather process is a focus on discovery and inquiry. So in that phase of this process, what we're doing is actually identifying stakeholders in the community to talk to us. What do you understand about WRHA? What are the significant needs of the community? What is the housing landscape like in the Williamsburg area? So folks like House of Mercy will be talking to the Community Action, we'll be talking with them. And there are a few others that Mr. Franklin has identified for us to talk with. So we've kind of started that process, understanding there is a timeline on this process, which I'll talk about in a moment. But because this structure is a little different, it's taking us a little longer to get to this point, but we wanted to go ahead and get some movement. So that gathering process has started. Following that gather, we will have a soak process. What comes out of the gather is what we call a preliminary findings report. In that preliminary findings report, you will see themes that have come out of the gathering of the information. So what the council members are saying, what the community is saying, what the staff at WRHA is saying, we bring those things out and we lift up the themes that have risen to the top throughout this process. In addition to that, the second phase of that PFR is what we call the pathways. Those pathways are recommendations or suggestions. They're not things that you have to necessarily do, but out of the work that we've done in gathering information and the themes that have been presented, we're presenting opportunities for WRHA to move forward, a path, if you will. Again, it's your plan, as we say, so what you decide is up to you, but we do offer those pathways. Once that's done, what we hope to begin to do is then build your strategic plan. So from all the information gathered, from all the input, we begin to actually put the goals and strategies and impacts and outcomes together, which is then presented back, hopefully, to this body, in which you hopefully will approve. And following that, we get into our radiate phase, where we'll have a little feedback with the community just to see where they stand with the actual process and the feedback that's been given. So gather, soak, and radiate is again our process. That radiate phase, blending in the final plan and then the implementation. This is the calendar of events, just to give you an idea of what we hope will be the timeline for this plan. I just put in red down there, there is a deadline from Virginia Housing. So just to make you aware that there are some deadlines related to this plan and getting it in and back to Virginia Housing. Because Virginia Housing is subsidizing this effort, to get the funds returned, we have to meet certain marks along this timeline. And so, again, we'll be working very closely with Mr. Franklin to make sure those things happen. But as you see, there are basically 5 primary participants in this process. There's a strategic planning team, the Spark Mill, the staff of WRHA, City Council, and then the residents. So as we move along, as you see in October and November, you see there's a lot of data gathering from us, which is usually a pretty quiet time for us because we're out talking to the community and engaging with staff. So you may not hear as much feedback at that point, but things begin to ramp up in February when the PFR comes to review and there's a retreat that takes place, hopefully with the strategic planning team, along with the staff of WRHA. And as we move a little further along in that plan, March, April, we're hoping to be able to present this plan for your review at that time and get a vote of approval on that plan sometime in May and June.
If I could, Mr. Hopkins.
Yes, please.
So on the previous chart, you had mentioned, you demonstrated City Council on there.
Yes.
I assume you mean the WRHA board.
Board.
Okay. I think that's important because Ms. Redcross and Ms. Prescott are not on City Council,
Yes.
but they are on this board, and I would want them to be part of that conversation.
Thank you, Mayor Pons. We'll make that correction. So the strategic planning team is typically made up of staff members. Sometimes we pull in volunteers. And in this case, we'd be seeking to pull in a couple of council members to help support this effort. The reason for that is we want a through line through this entire process to make sure that the information is being shared on all sides as we work through this process. What we don't want is any surprises as the plan gets presented to you where it doesn't feel acceptable and we have to go back and review and go over the process again. So with that, the expectations for someone who is sitting on the strategic planning team, there are usually 3 meetings over this 6-month period. About 6 to 7 hours is what we ask in the commitment over this 6 or 7 month period. So about an hour per month on average. And again, that's just to bring everyone to the table. There's a through line so that all the communication is happening between all parties involved in building this plan. And just here's a few people that we work with and have worked with throughout working with Virginia Housing: Harrisonburg, Stanton, Chesapeake, Newport News, Portsmouth, Kelowna Beach, Charlottesville, and Wytheville. All very different demographics, very different concerns, challenges, but all redevelopment and housing authorities. So I'll take any questions at this point regarding our process.
So I don't have any questions regarding the process. It sounds like, kind of like how you go through the three stages there and to ultimately get to a report that will deliver kind of the outcomes that you find that are critical to us. And so I appreciate that. I guess Mr. Franklin and I will kind of help you figure out who on maybe this commission can work with you on that. I'm sure we'd all like to participate in some way, but you don't have all that time to get us all together.
I think the preliminary findings report you all will see. So, I'm sure that will then help to get your feedback and present it back to the strategic planning team. So I think that's where we try to tie that through line together. So if there are two members present on the strategic planning team and you all are seeing that PFR collectively, that information comes back to us through the strategic planning team and the members who are sitting on that team.
Vice Chair, any comments?
Thank you for a presentation.
Yes, sir.
And no questions. That was very clear plan of attack, clear direction, and I appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Same for me. It was something I could easily understand as you went through the various steps. And I'm glad that we're taking this step for the WRHA.
Avi, thanks for coming and representing Spark Mill. Tyrone and Jelena are always so helpful in letting us know what the association's up to, WRHA that is. So I'm sure strategic planning wise, there will already be a lot that they have in mind, but it'll be helpful to have some other representation and also hear from residents too.
Fantastic.
Mr. Prescott, any comments?
Very precise, very clear. Thank you very much. No
Thank you.
questions.
Ms. Redcross?
Thank you.
Mr. Hopkins, thank you for coming forward. Looking forward
Yes.
to being part of the process and the ultimate outcome. So thanks
Thanks so much. And should I check in with Mr. Franklin about who you all decide will be representing? Is that the proper way to approach that? Okay.
Check in with him, and he'll check in with me, and then we'll get you a group of folks.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Avi, you mentioned a request. Was that the request of who's going to serve?
Our request is to have two council members join us.
Okay, all right.
Join the strategic planning team, yes.
The board.
Barb's jumping at the opportunity.
If Barb was coming out of her seat, she was ready to do it.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to say that meetings were 6 to 7 hours apiece, and I thought, well, that's really going to whittle down the list of people.
I was getting ready to make appointments. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you all for your time.
Yep. Mr. Franklin, anything you wanted to add to that?
No, we're just looking forward to it. In terms of making sure that the authority has a vision and can walk a path where the city can appreciate, our contribution going forward. I do know that there will be some changes, but I just want to make sure that with the board, city council representation, of course, city leadership, that we strike a chord that everybody can agree with, and we can go down this path together.
No, I agree. I think sometimes a third set of eyes on what we do helps us see better what's going on. And so, while we all sit here today and applaud the efforts and the work that's being done, there may be something that comes through this process that makes us even better. So thank you.
Right, and definitely want to, if there's something out there that we could take advantage of, that it can, I guess, operate out of our office, I'm looking for that guidance.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments on that? So that takes us to the end of the meeting of adjournment. Would somebody like to make a
I
motion?
move that we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. McKay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Rogers? Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Chair Pons?
Aye.
Vice Chair Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire?
Aye.
Ms. Prescott?
Aye.
Ms. Redcross?
Thank you all for being here today, and appreciate your attendance and work. Thank you. We are adjourned.